Hello, I'm Hugo Hernandez, and this is English for Medicine for first year students, Module 3, and this is session 11. In this session, we're going to continue talking about medical places and this activity, which is focused on the places that you can find in a hospital. We're going to see very simple vocabulary that you will then use to complete the exercises online. We're also going to have a reading comprehension task. So let's begin. As I told you, this is just a review of some vocabulary that we have seen, and also we're going to see some new vocabulary that it's important for you. So the first one, we have seen A&E. You have seen A&E, which is a department. It stands for Accident and Emergency. Accident and Emergency is a department which treats patients with serious illnesses or injuries, especially life-threatening ones. We have an example of the use of the word, like in she was taken to A&E on suspicion of appendicitis. Be careful with just the pronunciation of the itis ending, but that's it, appendicitis. And now let's continue with anesthetic. Anesthetic, which is not the same as anesthesia, because anesthesia is the lack of sensation. Anesthetic is this: a substance which causes lack of awareness or feeling, thus permitting surgery or other painful procedures. So basically, anesthetic causes anesthesia, the lack of sensation. Then, cardiology, that's easy to understand. That is the study and treatment of heart disorders. We have an example. If you suffer from chest pains or find it difficult to breathe at times, please consult a cardiology specialist. Clinic, which is something that we saw before. A clinic is not the same as a hospital. So a clinic is a part of a hospital where outpatients come for diagnosis and treatment. Remember, outpatients are the patients who just go to the hospital or clinic and then leave home the same day. This is the sample sentences. Please confirm your appointment by phone 2 days before coming to the clinic. Then we have the word geriatrics. If you remember, geriatrics is the area or the specialty. For this kind of specialties that finish in ICS, the specialist would have a GN ending. So we would have the geriatrics, the area or the specialty, and the specialist would be geriatrician. So what is geriatrics? The study, treatment, and care of old people. So, and the sample sentences is the main goal of geriatrics is to promote health in old age by preventing and treating diseases. We have then gynecology, which remember is not the same as obstetrics. So, gynecology is the branch of medicine in which doctors study and treat medical conditions which affect women and their reproductive organs. And the sentence that we have as an example is due to high infertility rate, gynecology has become a highly sought after specialization. We have inpatient, which is not the same as outpatient. An inpatient is a person who stays in the hospital for the time of treatment. It could be from 1 day to a month, a year, depending on the patient. And the sample sentence that we have here is: as all the hospital wards are full, we cannot take any inpatients right now. ICU, which we saw last week, is an intensive care unit. And this area is a ward where patients who are seriously ill are closely monitored. And we have the sentence: he suffered from such serious injuries in the motorbike crash that he was taken to the intensive care unit. So remember, you can say intensive care unit or ICU. Then we have some other words. The maternity ward, which is the place for pregnant women or women who have just given birth. And the example that we have is the maternity ward is a place where women give birth to babies. Neonatal is an adjective and it means or it is used for words related to the period after birth, especially the first 4 weeks after birth. And the sentence is when a baby is born prematurely, it is taken care of in a neonatal unit. Okay, so neonatal, that's the adjective. Neurology, that's a specialty. The specialist would be neurologist. So in this case, neurology is a specialty concerned with the study and treatment of disorders of the nervous system. And the sentence that we have here is if you want to specialize in neurology, you need to be knowledgeable about the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves. And two more words that we have here. One of them is oncology. This is the field of medicine concerned with the study, treatment, and prevention of cancer. And the sentence that we have here as an example is after noticing an abnormal spot, lump, or ulcer on your skin, contact the nearest oncology unit immediately. An outpatient is a person who does not stay in hospital but comes to a clinic or surgery for a treatment. Remember that they usually stay, no, sorry, they go, they just go to the clinic for the day or to the hospital for one day. And the example that we have here is the neurology clinic is attended by a lot of outpatients suffering from nervous system disorders. Then, last two, the last words that we're going to see here today is um, palliative care, which is medical care which does not provide a cure for a disease but reduces its severity or slows its progress. And remember, palliative care focuses on making the disease um, less difficult for the patient. So, the sentence that we have here is patients suffering from fatal diseases often require palliative care. Then we have the pharmacy. Pharmacy can be a synonym of drugstore, but when we're talking about places in the hospital, as medicines are not usually sold in hospitals, they wouldn't be called drugstores. So that's why when the pharmacy belongs to the hospital, that's the name that we use, pharmacy. The pharmacy is the place where drugs and medicines are prepared and sold. So go to the pharmacy to replenish the stock of barbiturates. Then physiotherapy. This is also a word that we saw last week. We saw the specialist, which is the physiotherapist. In this case, physiotherapy is the treatment of injuries by doing special exercises. The example is physiotherapy is recommended after any kind of back injury. And finally, we have psychiatric. Be careful with the pronunciation. It's psychiatric. It is an adjective and it is used for words related to the treatment and prevention of mental illnesses. So patients who might behave aggressively towards others are kept in closed psychiatric hospitals. Okay? So, and finally, sorry, these are the last words. We have surgery. I just want to remind you that there are there are three different meanings for the word surgery. One of them, which is the one that we have here, is the kind of treatment in which a doctor cuts into somebody's body in order to remove or repair the damaged or diseased organs. This is the same or a synonym of operation. So the example that we have here is all surgeries are performed in the operating room on the second floor. So you can say operating room or operating theater, which is another word for this place. The other two meanings of surgery are the place where a practice team work and also the time when a GP sees a patient. Well, not a patient, but a patient, some patients. A university hospital, which is also what we saw last week when we were talking about the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh. It is an institution which combines the services of a hospital with the education of medical students and medical research. And this is the sentence working in a university hospital is the best way for future doctors to learn and gain practice experience. And finally, ward. This is also another word that we have seen before. And this is a large hospital room with beds for patients to stay. And just I want you to remind you that a ward is a room for patients who have similar conditions. So they are not going to combine, for example, pregnant women with um, patients who have a respiratory disease. They would be in different wards. This is an example. Our wards have been equipped with modern life functions monitoring equipment. Okay, so these are going to be the words that you use for the activity in the in that you have online. I'm going to continue with the reading comprehension task. In this task, you're going to um, have to complete some sentences. That's why it says sentence completion, in which you have to use passive voice. Another task uh, is the one in which you have to match columns. You have the words and you have the definitions. Okay, so that's what we're going to do in this activity. I'm going to read the text, and I would like you to follow with me the reading. So let's begin. The text is called Animal Hospital, and it is about what it says here: a hospital for animals. It's like any other hospital. It's open 24 hours, 7 days a week. It has busy nurses, operating theaters, ambulances, and worried people in the waiting room. The only difference is that the patients are animals. We visited a big RSPCA, or Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, hospital in London. Just remember that we saw a operating room and also operating theater, which are synonyms. These are the places where surgery or operations take place. The hospital normally helps animals owners who cannot pay expensive vet bills. One of the nurses explains, many of the owners are old or live alone with their pets. Their pets are important to them. Sometimes their pets are their main companions, so we help to keep them healthy. All the nurses have to do a 2-year course before they can work there. They need to learn to give anesthetics, do x rays, and put on bandages. It is not easy when you have to put a bandage on a rabbit's broken legs or an owl's wing. The nurses agree that the best part of the job is the satisfaction when the animal recovers and the owners are happy. They also agree that the worst part is when owners are irresponsible or cruel. They say this is the reason why the hospital is always full. People do not look after their animals properly, especially at Christmas. People buy cats and dogs as cute presents, but then are too lazy to pay for the vaccinations and collars for the animals. People often get tired of pets when they get too big or make a mess. The nurses all agree that sometimes the job is very stressful if you love animals. This is because it is sad to see animals that are either sad or ill. Most of the animals are people's pets, but the hospital also cares for strays. Strays are animals without owners or homes. Some of the strays have simply lost their owners, but in other cases, their owners have abandoned them, especially in the case of dogs. The nurses explain that they have a lot of animals that have escaped from houses. For example, snakes and rare owls. The RSPCA tries to find owners for these animals. Unfortunately, they sometimes have too many animals to look after, and they have to kill them as painlessly as possible. This is most common after Christmas. The hospital also looks after wildlife. This year, their patients have included injured fox cubs, badgers, and friendly neighborhood birds. Okay, so this is the reading. I just want to remind you something. You have to complete the sentences using passive voice. Passive voice is a structure that we use when the subject of the sentence does not perform an action, so basically does not do anything, but the action affects the subject. To make the passive voice, you have to use the verb to be and the participle of the main verb. So, for example, uh, if I tell you my mother gave me a sandwich, in that case, my mother did something. My mother gave me the sandwich. In the same event, from a different perspective, I didn't do anything, but I received the sandwich. So I can say something like this: I was given a sandwich. In that case, I am using passive voice. So I was, that is the verb to be in the past, was, and given, which is the participle of the verb give. That's why I can say I was given a sandwich. So that is the assignment. Remember, you have to complete this text, which is a dialogue between the mayor and the hospital director, with the words that we saw in the presentation. And also, you have to write complete some sentences using the passive voice, and also to match columns, words with their meanings. Okay, well, thank you for your attention. If you have any question, remember to send them to me from Monday to Saturday, and we'll see you next week. Don't forget to do your homework.